The situation in Ukraine has been so tense lately. I wonder how President Zelensky will negotiate peace with Russia. Yesterday, Ukraine launched drone attacks on two major Russian cities near the border, causing the power and heating systems there to be paralyzed for several hours. Ukraine affirmed this was a necessary response after Russia launched hundreds of missiles and UAVs deep into their territory just one day prior. However, what caught public attention was not only the scale of the attack, but also the targets chosen by both sides. Energy facilities. Is this a sign of a new escalation phase, where warfare is not only on the battlefield, but also directly attacking the civilian lifelines of both countries? Within 24 hours, according to Ukrainian sources, over 450 UAVs and 45 missiles were launched, attacking at least 25 key areas. Many power plants and thermal stations were paralyzed, leading to widespread blackouts, including in the capital. Ukrainian energy experts admitted the national power grid is on the brink of temporary collapse, something unprecedented since the conflict began. Russia did not deny the attack, but claimed it targeted strategically valuable military facilities. However, many Western analysts question, if the targets were purely military, why would the 750 kilovolt civilian power, which Moscow had avoided attacking for 2 years, now becoming the focus? Is Russia sending a new deterrent signal, or is this the start of a tactic to make Ukraine pay with their own winter? Meanwhile, Kyiv assesses this is only the beginning of the worsening situation. A senior official admitted the air defense system has weakened, and Russia is using combined tactics, simultaneously attacking generation, transmission. International opinion worries if attacks continue in this direction, will Europe face nuclear safety risks once again? And as UAV waves persist in the sky, the eastern battlefield heats up intensely. The city of Polkron, a strategic logistics center for Ukraine, is becoming the new focus of the conflict. Russia claims to control 95% of this area, while Kyiv asserts the city is not fully surrounded. Conflicting information leads observers to question, is this the final stage of a predetermined campaign, or does Ukraine still have the ability to turn the situation around? According to independent sources, Ukrainian forces in Polkron are currently in a dire situation. About 20,000 soldiers are encircled in an area cut off from supply lines. Many elite units once considered the backbone of the Ukrainian army, such as the 25th, 38th, 68th, 79th, and 155th Brigades, are trapped in the Some units are ordered to hold their positions to the last man, but military experts say that order is more political than strategic. Western public opinion has differing views on this development. Some major newspapers believe Kyiv is trying to hold Polkron not out of hope to retake the city, but to avoid a symbolic defeat, striving to reinforce the strongest defensive morale since the fall. German military analysts warn that a hasty retreat could cost Ukraine thousands of soldiers and heavy equipment, but if they hold out, they face the risk of total annihilation. Russia seems well aware of this dilemma. While tightening the encirclement around Polk, Russian attacking units simultaneously launched an offensive in the Dobrapila area, north of the city. Observers believe this is a tactical pincer move, both blocking reinforcements from the west and cutting off ammunition and food supply lines. A Ukrainian military official admitted that if the Dobrapila line is lost, the entire defense cluster in Polkron will be iced. Field reports indicate Russian forces have captured most of the industrial zone north of the city, where Ukraine had built a multi-layered defense system. Some residential areas have changed hands multiple times, and Russia claims to have eliminated the enemy's last stronghold in the area, but Ukraine has not confirmed this. Nevertheless, leaked information from within the Ukrainian military shows clear pessimism. A former commander who played a key role in the Eastern Defense Forces publicly criticized the current command. The failure to withdraw troops early from Polkron is considered a serious strategic mistake. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian president remains firm with a no-retreat order, asserting that the situation is under control. International public opinion questions whether Kyiv is sacrificed of thousands of soldiers just to hold a position with more political and military significance. In the media, European sources assess that if the defeat at Polkron is confirmed, it will trigger a chain reaction. Ukrainian forces in neighboring areas like Belgorod and surrounding towns may be forced to retreat. This would allow Russia to expand its control zone in the east and move closer to the goal of controlling the entire Donetsk region. Some strategic experts emphasize Russia's simultaneous small campaign in Dnipropetrovsk could be a diversionary aimed at stretching Ukrainian defense forces, preventing Kyiv from concentrating enough troops to break this. If so, this is a carefully calculated move by Russia, not only to seek military victory, but also to demonstrate its ability to control the pace of attacks across the entire front. Meanwhile, Western media is increasingly cautious in report. Newspapers that were once optimistic about Ukraine's later counter now use cautious phrases like partial collapse risk or serious tactical imbalance. Some commentators argue that contradictions in statements between Ukrainian political and military officials show increasing internal tension, as the government wants to demonstrate resistance, while the military faces the reality of depleted manpower and equipment. The question now is whether Kyiv is willing to accept tactical withdrawal to preserve forces, or will continue to maintain a stance of not admitting defeat even at the cost of thousands of lives. Observers believe decisions in the coming days at Polkrod could shape not only the Eastern Battle situation, but also Ukraine's political standing in the eyes of Western allies, who are beginning to doubt Kyiv's ability to sustain a prolonged war. While hostilities in Polkrod haven't cooled, the political atmosphere in Washington has entered another storm. The U.S. government has entered its 40th day of budget paralysis, becoming one of the longest shutdowns in the country's history. Congress hasn't passed the spending bill as the two main parties, Democrats and Republicans, continue to dispute budget priorities. Democrats want to increase spending on social programs, while Republicans oppose this, arguing it would only inflate public debt. As a result, the entire federal administrative system has hundreds of thousands of civil servants are forced into unpaid leave. Airports are overloaded due to lack of air traffic controllers. According to Bloomberg estimates, each week of government shutdown costs the U.S. economy $10 to $30 billion. Domestic public opinion is growing weary, while international investors worry about the instability of the world's largest economy. Recent polls show most Americans blame Republicans, and particularly President Trump, who is entering his second term. Analysts believe he's leveraging this crisis to tighten his power. Congress must concede to budget cuts for agencies seen as Democratic strongholds. Other opinions suggest Trump is testing the endurance of the state apparatus itself, something many consider a double-edged sword, because when the system stops functioning, the first to bear the consequences are Americans. On the political front, consecutive failures in local elections in Virginia, New Jersey, and especially New York have shaken Trump's credibility. The Democratic candidate won in New York with a promise to tax the wealthy to support immigrants, a policy Republicans criticize as radical. However, this victory has given the Democratic Party more confidence, and experts note that Trump is facing unprecedented pressure as both his domestic credibility and international influence. In that context, the U.S. budget crisis is not just an internal issue but also has spillover effects on Europe. Multiple sources report that a series of military aid packages for Ukraine worth over $5 billion, including missile systems, artillery shells, and combat equipment have been suspended because the government lacks disbursement of it. This puts Ukraine in a difficult position as the need for weapons becomes increasingly urgent. While supplies from the U.S. are disrupted, international experts believe the political conflict in Washington is inadvertently becoming a strategic advantage for Moscow. As the U.S. is distracted by internal conflicts, Ukraine loses its most crucial support book. When military analysts stated that the longer this situation persists, the weaker Ukraine becomes, and the more time Russia gains to consolidate its position on the map. Many experts also question whether the U.S. still has the determination to maintain this massive aid flow, when the economy is under pressure and public sentiment is beginning to divide over the cost of a war halfway around the world. Some Republican senators openly expressed skepticism about the effectiveness of continuing to support Kyiv, while supporters worry that stopping aid at this point would be tantamount to handing an advantage to Russia on the European chessboard. The question is whether Washington can soon overcome the political deadlock, or whether internal calculations will make Ukraine pay the price on the battlefield. And if aid continues to be blocked, is Europe ready to take on this responsibility instead? The conflict in Ukraine is therefore no longer just a story between two nations, but is becoming a mirror reflecting the overlapping crises of the entire international system. This conflict appears to be entering its most tense phase, but the final outcome will be determined by time and political calculations.
Like the journey? Subscribe and join the next expedition.